Hey there, folks. I'm Matt Hansen.
And I'm John Johnson.
And you're listening to
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
The podcast where we discuss favorites we've reread, both classic and new comics we want to read, and everything else in between.
And here's the comic we picked this week.
Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of
Planes, Trains, and Comic Books.
Today, we are starting our celebration of Black History Month 2023, and we are doing that with a book that I've never read, and I believe you've never read, right, John?
Nope.
All right, so this is a book that actually came out when I worked at the comic book store, and somehow it just flew under my radar. I saw it on the shelves, but I don't know. It just never piqued my interest or something. But it's a book called Incognegro, and it is by Dark Horse Comics, and it is written by Matt Johnson and Warren Pleece did the art. And this is a very interesting book. It is not based on a true story, so it's not like a true crime or something book. But it calls itself a graphic mystery, which is very much what it is. I didn't notice that when I first read it, and I just thought this was going to be about like a journalist who goes to the South and, tries to save his brother from a lynching. But it ends up being like a whole murder mystery and all this stuff. So it's quite an interesting comic. What we're going to say.
Oh, so you can really tell the times that it's inspired by and like some of the events that kind of go into it, obviously.
Yeah, there were some notes at the beginning where Matt Johnson said that like he was inspired by, what was the guy's name from the NAACP?
Walter France White.
Yeah. So he, Walter White. That's right. Yeah. I was like, Walter White?
Yeah, that's right.
From Breaking Bad. But no, it's a different Walter White. And apparently that guy did similar things to the main character in this book where he could pass.
He almost joined the KKK from what I was reading. So
really? Okay. Yeah. So he could pass as a white man even though he was black. And so he was able to like sneak into areas that were white people that were racist were doing stuff to black people, and he was able to report on it and stuff. So it's a very interesting story, but this is kind of loosely based on that. There's also a bit about a bit from Matt Johnson's life, because he is a light-skinned black man as well. And then he was talking about, I think in the afterword, that his kids, they're not twins, but I think one of them is super light-skinned and one of them is dark-skinned. And so it's like, oh, even though they're brothers and they share the same, I don't know if they're brothers, even though they're siblings and they should share the same genetics, it still doesn't matter. Like, it's just random, like variation of skin color. So
it's just wild how that was perceived, especially like they said in the time period that this was set in. This is right around when there's a lot of lynchings and horrible murders of African Americans in the South. And I think they said over the 30-year span from like 1898 to like 1930
or something.
Yeah, it was like over 2,500 confirmed and known cases.
Yeah, and there's like more than that, because that was just the ones that were reported or recorded in some kind of book for people to look up later. But I'm sure there was backwoods, lynchings and stuff that were not recorded. So, and the basis for this book is, I think I kind of mentioned it, but there's a character who is a light-skinned black man, and he is able to go down into the South, pass as a white man, and he reports on lynchings that are happening, and then he brings those stories up to the North where he works for a newspaper, and then he will publish those across the nation in like a bunch of national periodicals, and then people are still he's basically keeping the awareness in the public of lynchings, because I'm sure people in the North, they're not seeing it every day because they don't live in the South. They're not seeing that doesn't happen in the North, as far as I know. I don't think there's many lynchings in the North.
Yeah, it wasn't obviously nowhere near as common.
But I mean, obviously there was still racism, but it was a different kind. It was more like gentrification or segregation in city blocks and stuff like that. So, this was like a really interesting comic, and I had a blast reading. I thought it was like super interesting, especially because it is like a graphic mystery. There's like a crime in the background that's going on that is also like not what I expected. But another thing about this comic is it doesn't pull any punches. It definitely says everything that, like the way everybody talks is exactly how they would talk in the 20s about races and stuff like that. So
yeah, all the language is there. Like it's very intense.
It's very just it's kind of like a warning if you're extra sensitive to that stuff. This book does have slurs and stuff in it, and then also extreme violence towards African Americans. So obviously it's about lynchings. So it's got to deal with that topic in a very mature way, I guess. So and we start off on the first page with that. We start off with a lynching taking place. We're getting some narration from the reporter who his paper name is Incognegro. That's how he is able to stay under the radar and not exposed to anybody because he uses that pen name to report these lynchings. But his name is Zane, and that is the main character of this book. And so he is telling the story of this lynching that he went to, and it is horrible. I mean, it is one like I literally read it the morning of this recording, and it was like, holy shit! It was 6 a.m. This is like the first page. This is pretty intense.
That's a way to wake up.
Yeah, it is for sure. And it starts off with we see a man being hung by the neck. We see white people surrounding him, Ku Klux Klan members. People are approaching him to hit him with sticks and bats and stuff.
And then the spectatorship of the people that like brought their kids to this. It's like the town, get like the kind of
it's like the carnivals in town or some shit.
Carnival, the old West when they would do like public hangings. Like it's absolutely grotesque and terrible.
Yeah, I don't even know if that's only in the Old West, but
just in general.
Yeah, just in general, or like even like gladiatorial games or something like death is a spectacle, I guess, before the internet. So, they go into graphic detail about what exactly a lynching was, so you understand as the reader like this is a horrible, horrible process. Not that you didn't know that, but there's some stuff I didn't know necessarily, like. I've heard of this, but I didn't know it was like that commonplace. They would actually castrate the people that were being hung if they were male, and then it was kind of like a piñata. Like they would let people beat the person after that, and then they would dress them like a clown as well.
Yeah, I didn't know that they would dress people after. Yeah, like that was pretty.
And it was probably depending on the murder and how spontaneous it was, like the lynching, but like if it was a planned thing, like we have time to prepare, we're gonna make it like an event in the town. So that is what happens. As part of that event, at the end when the person is dead, hanging from the tree, there are photographers there that are like, get your token of remembrance of this great
souvenir photo.
Yeah, your souvenir photo, like it's fucking Disneyland or something. And so this person is setting up a photograph stand, and it's like the old timey cameras where you have to stand super still and just it exposes to light or whatever. So it's not very quick process, but so there's a line being made for this photograph, and so we see a man, and that is Zane, our main character, who is walking around, and he's saying like, a free photograph to everybody, like one free photograph, if you just give me your name, your address, who you work for. And he's going around, and the people think that he's like the assistant of the photographer. And someone brings it up to him saying like, you must be doing really good with these lynchings because you hired an assistant. And he's like, assistant? What are you talking about? And then everybody starts realizing, wait a second, who is this guy asking us for our names, our address, where we work? And like they're giving all these details too, like freely and openly. They're not ashamed that they just murdered someone or witnessed a murder and celebrated in it at all. So, it turns out that the guy that's like the KKK member, what's his name?
Mr. Huey, I believe.
Yeah, Mr. Huey. Yeah. He's not like a grand dragon, but I think he's like a high up in the Ku Klux Klan organization. And so he's walking around and he hears of this person. And he's like, wait a second, who is that guy? And so he starts going up to him, asks him a bunch of questions, and then it turns out Zane doesn't have any option, but just he runs away. He's like, I'm found out. He runs off. They start chasing him, and he only gets away because there happens to be a train going across the train tracks, like right as he's running, and he jumps he jumps across the tracks just as the train comes by, and it's a long train, so he's able to get into a car and run away before anybody can before the train passes, basically, so no one can get him. And then we get this panel that's like, obviously this is like the bad guy. Of the comic. We get like I'll get you, Gadget, or whatever, like one of those kind of.
He's like, oh, he must be that reporter that it's always doing stuff.
Yeah.
Like, so we'll see him again.
Yeah. So the Incognegro pen name and those articles are known throughout the South by the KKK, and they're like, someone is going around pretending to be white or passing as white, and we're gonna catch that guy. And then so this what's his name, Mr. Hugh?
Yeah, Mr. Huey.
Yeah, Mr. Huey is now on Incognegro's trail, or Zane's trail,
with his one glass eye.
Yeah. And
sorry, they make it's very like he's a villain.
Yeah, obviously.
Other than being KKK.
Other than being in the white robes with the Klan.
But they went the extra mile with making him like extra like creepy.
Yes, and so it turns out this whole section that we just saw of this lynching was actually being told by Zane to a couple of his friends back in New York. So he's kind of just recounting the story that's going to go in the newspaper that day or the next day. And, or actually, I guess it's that day because they're there like at dinner celebrating the release of this like report that he did, this expose, I guess you'd call it, on lynchings in the South. And so we meet his friend Carl. And what's her name?
So her name is Mildred. She doesn't play as much of a role, but Carl is definitely the main, his main buddy.
Yeah, it's like his best friend, basically. Carl is Zane's best friend. They both are passing black men, meaning they both are light-skinned black men. And so they have that in common, at least. And this comes up because as they're leaving the restaurant, Zane kind of like, I guess, eggs on Carl, saying like, what are you doing with your life, man? Like, you're not doing anything. You got to get your shit together. And Carl kind of takes offense to this and like, walks away, gets mad. He leaves Zane. Then we cut back to, then we cut to, I guess, the newspaper that Zane works at. And I don't know if this is the next day or if it's like that later that night he goes back to the office. And I don't know if back then, maybe because newspapers were the only media that had any information and they needed to be running kind of 24/7 or something. But it seems like in old movies and stuff, newspaper buildings just always had people doing something at all times. So, which makes sense. You got to keep the presses rolling, You got to have copy edited at all times. So Zane goes to his office and he's actually there to say, like, I don't want this column anymore. Because he doesn't, he's incognito. He's anonymous as the writer. No one knows he's writing all these really popular, very hard-hitting journalist pieces, and so he's not getting anything out of it other than exposing these horrible things. He wants a name. He wants people to recognize him. He wants to be able to move up, and so he tells his boss, like, "Look, I'm done with this. I just want to be like a regular columnist and like maybe do opinions or something." And his boss is like, "No, like I already have enough of those. You are doing really good work, and you can't expose yourself because or else you'll have to stop doing it because you're exposing yourself, and like telling everybody who you are. So now the KKK would know, oh, that's you at the lynching, so they won't let you go there or they try to kill you. But he says, okay, like if you have to do this, if you're really giving up, then I got one last thing for you." And he hands Zane a file, and it's something about, there's like an urgent, it says Tupelo, Mississippi urgent. And it turns out that this is a file on Zane's brother who lives in the South still, specifically Tupelo, Mississippi. And it turns out he has been arrested for the murder of a white woman. And he is not, I don't know, he's not going to go on trial. They just have him in jail, probably just waiting until they decide to lynch him. So Zane, he sees this file and was like, God damn it, I gotta go, And also, like, I mean, they don't know he didn't kill them because even his boss is like, well, maybe he did it, And it's like, probably not, but I got to go down there and see, you know.
Yeah.
And if there's going to be a lynching, I want to be there, and maybe I can save my brother. You know, if people are going to try to lynch him, maybe I can save him. So Zane gets ready. He goes down and to the train station. You know, he packs up everything. He goes to the train station, and we get to see like his process of how he goes incognito. Basically, it consists of him just straightening his hair. That's pretty much the main thing. I didn't see anything else that really.
I think it's just him. He's like making sure he's like, you know, quote unquote well dressed and like tailored.
He's wearing a suit, but I think a lot of people wore suits back then, so it's kind of hard to tell. But yeah, like the main thing is that like there's like I guess maybe was a curling iron back then or something, or a straightening iron. It's got like a steam coming off of it or something. So yeah, I guess he just had to relax his hair and then he could pass pretty easily. And he has pretty short hair anyway, so once he does that, he's ready to go. So he goes down to the train station and he actually runs into Carl, who's like, "Hey, I'm coming with you." And Carl actually just shows up in the train. Like Zane sits down in a car and begins talking to a white man. And the white man is from the South, and he's like, "Oh, you're from here? You going back home?" And Zane is like, "Oh, I'm just doing some vacationing down South." And of course, the white man thinks Zane is white, so there's no weirdness there. And then as Zane's talking to him, there's like a bit of a hint that maybe this white guy is pretty racist, because at first he seems like okay with black people. He's like, "You know what? Blacks are fine. I'm okay with them, you know? And I like the ones you guys got up here. Oh, no, I like the ones we got down in the South because they are easy to control. They know their place."
Yeah, he very quickly turns the conversation south and sour.
Yes, and so South. No pun intended. But yeah, so in the middle of that conversation, Carl just comes into Zane's cabin with this white guy, and once again, Carl is passing as well. So they sit down, and the white guy's like, "Oh yeah, you know, like people in the South, blacks are really amiable there, but not like up here. They're all uppity and stuff or whatever." And Carl gets like super pissed.
A little more colorful language, but that's what he's saying.
Yes, I am paraphrasing because I'm not going to say certain words that people say. In fact, uppity might be a bad word to say. I don't know. But so Carl gets super mad and almost assaults the guy. And Zane has to be like, "Dude, you have to fucking settle down. If we're going undercover with white racist people in the South, you can't freak out every time someone says something racist." So he, lays down the law with Carl and says like, "Hey, this is what's going to happen." So they finally get to Tupelo, I guess. And we see as they, actually, I don't even know. I guess it is Tupelo, right? Because they're getting off.
I think so, or just outside of maybe wherever the major train station is, because they do hitch a ride. But
yeah, they're at the train station, and there's a black guy getting harassed by some white guys. They're basically accusing him of stealing just because he can afford a train ticket. And he's trying to go up north, so this would be like the return trip of that train. And so Zane actually steps in, and like at first Carl's like, "We got to do something. Like, I'm gonna go punch him." And Zane's like, "Hold on, like this is not what we do. Watch and learn, buddy."
He's like, "I'm gonna help, but in the right way to help that person."
Yeah,
as far as like to stay incognito.
Yeah, and so Zane walks up to them and is like, "Why are you guys trying to stop a black guy from leaving? I thought we don't want them here." And they're like, "You know what? You make a good point." And then, at first the kids are like, "Well, who are you to say anything?" And then he says something about he uses words, and this is real. I mean, it seems fucking ridiculous, but the Klan had made up words that they would say to each other that like were acronyms for like, "I am in the Klan." And then it was like, was it AYAK and Akia? I don't know, or Akia or something.
A Klansman, I am.
Yeah, that's what Akia means. And like, so they're saying words that don't mean anything to anybody else technically, but I'm sure everybody knows that that's what that means. Yeah. And it's telling each other like, "I'm in the Klan." And so he's pretending to be a high up Klans person, and he's saying, yeah, just let this black guy leave. Like, we don't want more of their kind here. So they end up listening to him, and he actually, like, throws the bags of the black kid onto the train and is like, get out of here. We don't want your kind here. You leave. He pulls like a Harry and the Hendersons.
Yeah.
They're like,
wow.
Where he's trying to like get the guy out without letting anybody realize what's happening here. So, and then it turns out as they're trying to find a ride off the train station, Zane and Carl run into that kid's dad, and he says like, I'll give you a ride on my wagon because you helped my son out, and also like I owe you one. Like, and I was like, I don't know. I forgot about this until later on, but it does come into play that he owes them one. Yeah. So,
and also he's like, also, I know you guys are black.
Yeah. Like right away as they're on the back of his car, he's like, or on the back of his buggy. He's like, oh yeah, I could tell you guys are black, or at least the way that you're acting, I can tell. So, so I guess, maybe they can pass for white people because he's been doing it for a long time, pretending to be white.
Yeah, and I think what he was saying, it literally was the color thing. Is because when they look at them, they don't they see them as white, so they don't. It's
a perception.
Yeah, it's perception for them.
So if you walk in, no black man is going to walk into a room of Klans people. They're not expecting it. You know, it's out of nowhere, so their mind doesn't even go to, oh yeah, they are black. And this actually comes into play because Zane's brother, who's named Alfonso, is his twin brother. So he literally looks exactly the same as him, just a lighter shade, or a very lighter shade of his brother who's dark black. And he's like no one notices that in the entire comic, except I think once he points it out to the sheriff or something at the end, it's I'll be damned. Like, you are his brother. So, it's kind of like, I've heard stories, and it is true. Like, if you aren't expecting to see something, your eyes just don't see it. Like your mind doesn't pick up on it.
Yeah.
So yeah, like if you're looking for something specific in your house that you lost, and you can't see it, but it's sitting right in front of you in that basket, or it's something like that. So,
half the time it's in a place you already looked because you glazed over it.
Exactly. So it's like that. Like your brain just isn't expecting it to be there, and so you miss it. And so Zane walks into the sheriff's office, and he at first tries to see, I guess, or test the waters and see if the sheriff is a Klansman. He says some of those fancy words, and the sheriff's like, what the hell are you talking about? So Zane's like, okay, this guy's not in the Klan. But he does say, like, I'm part of an organization you might have heard of, and I want to talk to the prisoner you have, if you don't mind. And so the sheriff goes along with it, even though he's not part of the Klan, because I guess he just doesn't care.
He talks about it being like, well, you're an elected official.
Yeah, so Zane says, I know you're not part of the Klan, I guess, but you are elected, and a lot of people in these parts are. So if you would like to keep your position as sheriff,
you should let me talk to him.
You would acquiesce to my request. So he goes to the prisoner's cell, and the sheriff leaves him with the prisoner, who is his brother Alfonso. And Alfonso is very happy to see him once he realizes who it is. And he thinks like Zane's like, oh, we're gonna get you out of here, and he's like, great, like go get some guns, we'll blast me out of here, and then we'll run as fast as we can, get out and go north. And it's like, That's not happening.
He's like, I'm a reporter. We're not going all crazy on this. He's like, but I want to know what happened. Yeah. There's some white lady that supposedly was murdered, and they think you murdered her. What happened? Tell me the story.
Yeah.
And the woman that they found murdered is Michaela Mathers.
Yes. So that's like a really big sticking point is who was murdered. It was a white woman, of course. And at first, the brother, Alfonso, is like, oh yeah, like I totally just was walking,
just
looking
me
at nature.
Walking in the nature.
Yeah, I love the woods, so I was walking up in the woods, and I happened upon this body. And Zane is like, stop! I know you hate nature. This is total bullshit. And so he's like, fine, sorry, I'll level with you. I forgot like who I'm talking to. And he tells him, okay, like I have a moonshine still up in the woods. I was up there, and I have like a whole stash and all the equipment. And of course, as I'm walking around my still, I hear, or I I don't know if he heard something, but he goes as he was walking and he finds the body of the white woman, and he's like, oh, and it's Michaela, and Michaela is actually his girlfriend, or his, I don't know if it's lover.
It's like okay, so it's partially business partner, and that because she helped him with the still.
Yeah, so
because I guess she had some debts.
Yes, but he was in love with her. Like, he loved her a lot because he starts crying as he sees her body. He knows it's her because she's white and it's a woman up here in the place where him and her have been working with the still, and she's the woman is wearing the clothes of Michaela, and so he's like, oh, but her face has been completely smashed and is unrecognizable. So everybody is just under the impression that this is her because that is what I guess he said, or I assume that's what it is because.
Because they come upon him. Some of the people are out, and then they come upon him over the body.
Yeah, I guess they were looking for something. I can't remember. Oh, were they looking for I don't know. I don't know why they were up there. I can't remember why they ended up going up there.
Is it someone had been missing, maybe?
I don't know. I can't remember, but it's literally like, oh, right away as he's like still crying on the ground, maybe they were looking for Michaela because she was missing and ended up going up there because maybe they heard that she was up there. I can't remember. It's something like that. Not important. Either way, that's what happened is he got arrested, of course, once they saw him crying in front of the dead body of the white woman because why else? Yeah, I mean, obviously he was sad that he killed the white woman. So he got arrested. At the same time, the sheriff's deputy is missing, Francis, and he's been gone the entire time that Michaela has been dead. So everybody isn't really noticing this. They're like, that's odd, but who cares? Except Zane is like, obviously, that guy killed Michaela and vamoose, like left because he killed someone. So while Zane was in the
this is the best part. The best thing about it is Carl trying to be like, basically Carl trying to do his version of what Zane does.
Yes. So Zane was inside the jail talking to his brother. In the meantime, Carl is at the local bar and he's chatting up everybody when Zane comes out. And Zane's like, what the fuck? And he's not just chatting normal. He's like, I guess he was trying to do that's why the black guy knew, the father of the son that they sent north. He knew that they were black because I think Carl was doing a fake Southern accent and it was really bad. And so they're like, stop doing Southern accents. So now Carl, instead of doing a Southern accent, starts to do a British accent because he figures these rednecks don't know what a real British accent is. And I'm going to pretend from like a radio show.
Yeah, the radio show.
That he listens to. And so he's got that accent down. So he starts talking to all these people. He's telling them that he's a rich landowner from Europe. And he is, trying to get some more land down here in the South. And so that's like his shtick. He's doing that. Zane, of course, is like, what the fuck? I got to talk to this guy real quick. He's like, what the fuck are you doing? You can't. What is that accent? And he's like, look, it's fine. They're buying it.
They believe it.
Yeah, it's all good. So he tells Zane, don't worry. Zane, go do your thing. Solve the mystery. In the meantime, I will just be here doing my own thing. And I think he actually finds out some information about the murder and what has been going on in the town because all the townspeople have been talking to Carl, thinking he's from out of town. So they're giving him all this information that Zane was not able to get, at least at first. And so it seems like Carl's going to be helpful, at least with this at first. And so Zane says, all right, keep doing your thing. Don't do any stupid shit.
Yeah, don't be stupid.
Yeah, but I will, I'll be back. I'm going to go look at this still. So he takes his brother gave him directions to his still. So Zane goes up there to look at the still. And it's all smashed up because this is in the 20s, right?
Yeah.
Okay, so this is during Prohibition, which is why it's a big deal that he would have a still. So the cops, when they arrested him, also smashed up all his equipment. But also he left something that the cops didn't find, and that is a giant stash of moonshine that he's put in like a cave, like an old bear cave. that the cops didn't find. So he tells them like, hey, I need you to get any equipment that isn't smashed and also figure out how to get all that moonshine out of there, Zane. And then you can come save me. Because that's like all the money I ever had in the world is there.
Right there.
He goes, right there. That's my investment. So as Zane is up there, he's kind of looking over the scene. Someone shoots him in the hand. And it turns out that as he's running, Zane runs into this cave where he finds the moonshine. And then it turns out because Zane takes a thing, he doesn't know what to do. He doesn't have a gun or anything on him. So he's like, okay, well, I got all this moonshine and I have a lighter. So he uses like a Molotov cocktail, basically. He uses one of the moonshine bottles, throws it at the person shooting at him. And it turns out he hits that person, but they're able to remove their coat before they burn to death or whatever.
Yeah.
So he's able to put out the fire as he realizes that it is a woman. And in fact, this is Michaela.
Bum, bum, bum.
Yeah, what the fuck? She's supposed to be dead. She is not, and his brother is not on trial, but arrested for the murder. And so he's talking to her, and he finds out that they have this whole thing going where, she loves him kind of, but he loves her a lot.
Yeah.
And, she likes him.
Yeah.
But
it is more, it's like, there's some romance, but it's definitely more business related for her.
Yeah. And yeah, so she's talking to Zane. Then we cut to the train station where we see
someone's pulling in,
and it's Mr. Huey, the guy from the KKK at the original, the lynching at the beginning of this book, that chased Zane, and was when Zane was able to escape. So
how do you know? Because of the glass eye.
Exactly. And so Mr. Huey is arriving because he knows the lynching's about to happen. He's like, I'm going to see, now that I kind of know what this guy looks like.
Being accused of killing a white woman, we're going down here to see what's going on.
Exactly. So he shows up, and when he gets there, one of the local KKK members tells him, oh, there was some other big shot here earlier today. Some of the kids said, they were talking to him, and he's like, other big shot? What are you talking about?
Yeah, I'm the only one from not corporate, but the higher up office.
Yeah, the corporate office.
The corporate office of the KKK.
Yeah.
From whatever area KKK that was going to be coming. So.
Sure. And so hearing this, he has a suspicion that he's going to be seeing Incognegro here. He doesn't call him that. He calls him other stuff, but he's like, he knows he's probably going to see the guy who's writing all these newspapers, articles passing as a white man here. He's definitely on the lookout. So it turns out that Zane ended up staying with Michaela at the still site, I guess, because it was too late or whatever by the time they finished.
And plus she's trying to help mend his hand a little bit from shooting. Luckily, she didn't shoot deep. It's like
it's like the webbing between his pointer and his thumb got shot barely.
So just barely grazed him.
And it must have been, I don't know, birdshot or some shit, because it wasn't, it didn't look very bloody or anything, or mangled. So in the meantime, while he's up there talking with Michaela, we cut to Carl, who is talking to the townsfolk still, and he is selling them the biggest fucking tales about England and about how much money he's got and about how he is definitely going to buy land from people. So one of these townsfolk says, like, hey, if you're going to buy land and maybe you want to check out mine, I got a shit ton of acreage and I don't care about it. So you should buy that, but also stay with me so you can take a look at it. And, we got a guest house or whatever. You can stay with us.
Just come and stay with us for free. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, don't worry about it. So this seems like it's probably, he's getting in too deep, or he's getting in pretty deep. You know? This was definitely a warning for me, like a red flag in my head. I was like, do not stay with a man.
Don't stay on this.
Yeah, don't stay with his family. And even, that was only a 2-page interaction between Carl and this guy. And then when Carl leaves to let me go see if I can find my associate. Yeah. The white guy that's going to let him stay at his house is talking to someone else. And the guy's like, what the fuck are you doing? Why are you letting someone stay at your house? And the white guy's like, well, if he isn't who he says he is, I'll just kill him. Like, who gives a shit? If he is just he still thinks he's British. So he's like, oh, he's just some asshole British guy. fuck it, I'll kill him.
Kill him and
who
feed
cares?
him to my hogs.
Exactly, feed him to my hogs. As that is the best way to get rid of anybody. Everybody knows. I don't know if you know.
Oh yeah, because they eat everything. Anyway.
Yeah, I mean, I think Deadwood did that.
Not Silence of the Lambs. What's the second one?
Hannibal did that,
Yep.
or not Hannibal, but the serial killer in Hannibal did
Hannibal,
that. Also, there was an actual serial killer. I can't remember his name that did that as well. So
okay.
He owned like a hog processing plant, and he would murder people and then feed them to the hogs. So
I mean, yeah,
sure, why
that's
not?
one way to do it, I guess.
So yeah, he's definitely heard about this. So in the meantime, we're getting the full story from Michaela. She's telling Zane finally, now that they've, I guess, she believes his story that he is the brother because she sees him. Like she finally like looks past the color and like, holy shit, you do look like Alfonso. Okay, you are his brother. You're just light skinned.
Yeah, Alonzo.
I'm sorry, Alonzo. How did I say Alfonso?
Yeah, I don't know. They're close.
It's close enough. We'll say Alonzo from now on. But yeah, so she's telling him exactly what really happened because if she's not dead, who the fuck was dead, So she's telling him, like, I like this. I like it when they do this in comics or in movies. There's a narration where she's telling Zane, like, oh, I was doing my job, working hard at the still. And then we cut to the actual panel where we see that she was, drinking the moonshine, getting super drunk and yelling at the moon or whatever. And like, not really in her right mind. And then it ends up because she drank so much moonshine, she got diarrhea. Then she went to go take a shit. And then as she was taking a shit, she heard someone step on a stick and she got scared. And then as she went over to that noise, she saw the dead body of a girl and she figured, okay, like sucks to be that girl, but she owed money to someone in town that was threatening to kill her. So this moonshine still was going to be like her way out. So she figures, hey, even better, I could make this girl look like me by putting my clothes on her, smash her face up,
yep.
And then people think it's me, and then I won't have to worry at all about anybody ever coming after me once I leave with all this moonshine and hopefully Alonzo. So she does that. She smashes the person's face. And it's a girl like no one knows. She's like, I don't know who this girl is. No one knows who she is. But so that is what she tells Zane, and Zane believes it. I mean, he doesn't have any reason not to. And she tells him that I don't know why. Oh, I guess he was talking, like, I guess she says, oh, the deputy probably did it, which is why he's not been in town. So he's like, who is this deputy? She says, oh, his name is Francis, and he is a Jefferson White, from the Jefferson White family, which is...
And I don't mess with those people.
No one I mean, this is basically that X-Files episode, Home. I mean, this is like Appalachian...
Very much so.
Hill folk, we'll call them. The Hatfields and the McCoys or some shit. Like, they are known to...
very give off a very Westboro Baptist feel as far as like...
Yeah, except with more incest.
More.
Well, I mean, I don't know.
We don't know. But yeah, we don't know.
But
that.
at least as right now, I don't think that's what's going on there. But either way, yeah, they're very... But I mean, this was like... I think everybody back then was Westboro Baptist,
That's
like
fair, yes.
that level. So they're just that, and people still stay away from them because they are extra crazy.
Yeah.
And also potentially incest inbred people. So so she tells him about this family, says if he's anywhere, he's probably there. You could go find him if you want. So she tells him where to find them. And then Zane ends up going back into town, finding Carl. Carl tells him like, oh, I got a place to stay if you want. And Zane's like, no, we ain't staying. And also Carl says, yeah, you're right. We shouldn't stay because look over there. And they happen to be on a hill overlooking the town. And who's showing up but a bunch of KKK members?
Yeah, and like there's like obviously people are starting to gather like
for some event.
Yeah.
I don't know what event it could be, but it's very obvious that it's the lynching. The lynching is this event. It's almost like carnival grounds are being set up or some shit where there's like food vendors and everything else in town. People, souvenir shops and all that stuff. So it's very fucked up. But So this kind of brings it home. Like, we don't have time to fuck around. So Zane tells Carl, like, hey, we don't have time to, like, sleep at this guy's house. I know we got to do something. We got to go to these Jefferson White family people. So he goes over in the middle of the night to the father that he helped, whose son they helped at the beginning, and says, like, hey, can you give us a ride into this town? I don't know. The town must not be that far away, but maybe like 4 hours away or something by buggy.
Yeah.
Because they go in the middle of the night, and then like I think it's daytime by the time they get there. So I don't know. It seems like it's night right now. I don't know how late it is, but they're like, the dad is asleep. So I'm assuming, I don't know. Did people fall asleep earlier back in the day because there was no lights or anything?
Maybe. Yeah. Maybe they were already in bed by like 6 or 7.
Yeah, maybe. So maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was like a 12-hour ride or something. But either way, they get the dad to help him. I guess it's just Zane that goes, and Carl stays behind.
Yeah, because to keep up appearance, I think.
Basically. Yeah. So Carl is with the guy. The guy is telling him, like, you don't. I mean, these people are crazy. You probably don't want to.
Oh, Zane is with the guy. This is Zane.
Did I say Carl?
Yeah, you said Carl.
Oh, I meant Zane. Zane is with the dad.
Zane is with the dad.
Carl is with the white guy, I guess. I'm assuming that's where he stayed. And so they're kind of talking and, becoming friendly with each other, I guess. And they finally get to the town. It's daytime now, so it was probably morning. And Zane goes into the general store and just starts asking questions, saying like, oh, does anyone know where Francis Jefferson White is? I'm looking for Francis. He's a good pal of mine. And everybody's like, what? Good pal of Francis, huh? Like, how's that, And Zane is saying, like, well, there was a murder, and he's a deputy, so we need to find him to testify for this murder that's going on. We need his help. And as one of the guys stands up and says, "Oh, I know Francis. I'll help you find him." Zane turns his back on the man, and the man hits him with a chair, because it turns out that Zane gets brought to the Jefferson White house because, as he finds out, Francis
is a woman.
Bum bum bum. Yeah, and I don't know about you, but this is exactly where I solved the book. So. At least the main part of the book.
Yeah, like from there I was like, oh, okay, well then we think we know who.
Obviously, the woman who was killed is Francis, but Zane doesn't put that together right away.
Yeah, well, I was like, oh, okay, but she was a deputy who was a he, and then there was like, oh, well then someone's posing as a deputy with that name, or there was some questions for sure.
Yes, so. It turns out, like, Zane is left at that family's house. He's in a cage. They have him caged.
Yeah.
Along with the father that helped him come into town. Because they were like, oh, he's with you. And so there's 2 black men in cages outside of these crazy people's house. Then we cut back to Carl, who is he's in a different kind of cage. He is at dinner with the KKK members.
Yes.
And specifically, Mr. Huey is at dinner with Carl.
Yeah, with the white guy who invited him to the house, the guy who has the land. He has this like nice little dinner party, quote unquote, but it's full of KKK members.
Yes, and so so the KKK guy, Mr. Huey, is like, this guy's from out of town, huh? Like, it's quite an accent you have. So he starts trying to question Carl about the accent, and he even says, like, sounds a lot like that radio program in the North, that one where they pretend to be British. And he's like, oh, I have not heard of this program, sir. And so he starts suspecting that Carl is Incognegro. He thinks that is, like, Carl is the writer of all those articles. I guess he didn't get a good look at him when he was chasing him.
Yeah,
Carl doesn't look that much at all like the main character. He has a mustache and whatnot, but maybe he thinks, "Oh, this guy just grew a mustache and came down here," whatever. So, through all of this, the KKK members talking about how lynchings are so fun, and how the next one they're going to have in a couple days is going to be great. And he pulls out his set of memorial or memento cards, I guess.
Yeah.
For all the lynchings that he's gone to, where he's taking pictures with the bodies.
Yeah, they were talking. Carl was talking with another white guy about like cards, and that guy pulled out like a deck of cards that were, they had like nude women.
I think it was nude lady cards.
But then he's like, "Oh, you like cards? Let me show you my collection of cards." And this is so sick and disgusting.
Yeah. So he pulls out these photographs of lynchings of people dead, and he's like, "Oh, this one was a great one," and like he's talking about like batting averages or some shit, like sports figures or something. But it's about people being dead. So Carl gets sick to his stomach and actually has to excuse himself to vomit. And as he's leaving like the little back area where he threw up, I guess it's the outhouse probably, right? That he comes out of a little building. I'm assuming maybe it's definitely the outhouse. Now you see him like throwing up inside of a hole like that's in a wooden seat or whatever. So he throws up, and as he's leaving, he says out loud to himself in his New York normal accent, "Lord have mercy, give me strength to deal with this cracker shit." And unfortunately, Mr. Huey was standing outside and heard him say it like that, and he says, "Well, that's quite a different accent you have, And so basically this just confirms to Mr. Huey that this is in fact the undercover reporter Incognegro. And so they capture him. And it seems like they're going to have their own lynching, another lynching to have with Carl instead. So they take him into custody, I guess, or whatever.
Whatever you want to call it. Like
citizen's arrest? I don't fucking know what it would be called. They abduct him, I guess.
Yeah,
they kidnap
him.
So, this is nothing. None of this is lawful. I mean, even if he was arrested, it's still not lawful. But like, this is extra not lawful, I guess. So, so then we cut back to the house of Jefferson White family, and we see Zane has been in that cage for a while. He's poked awake by the little inbred kid. I just imagine these people literally are like the X-Files episode Home.
Yeah.
Like, or Hills Have Eyes.
Hills Have Eyes is definitely a good vibe too. If you
Mama, can I have his liver? So they automatically seem to know that he is black, not white. I don't know. I guess they could just tell, or they figured. But they have some kind of weird religious thing where they think that because maybe he's like super light skinned, that he is some like beckoning, like he's the hearkening angel of the race war that's going to come, that's happening now. Like he is the signal for it to start or something. So they start talking about it to him about like when is it happening and where are they going to attack? And then they start talking about how they are, like the race war is going to happen, on the ground level, on sea level. But up here in the mountains, we're just going to wait it out. And then when all the black people kill all the white people, they're going to need someone to think for them because they can't think. So we're going to be the like leaders of those black people, and it'll be great. It's the weirdest fucking ideology. I'm assuming this is like a real ideology that they that existed or something, because it is batshit crazy. I don't understand how you could think it, but there's a lot of things I don't understand about this book, how you could think it. So, so anyway, they tell Zane this whole thing and the dad, and this was like my favorite part in the book, I think. So the family, they all like, okay, well, we'll be inside and we're basically gonna kill you because why keep you around? You're spies, basically. You're gonna if you escape, you tell everybody that like, oh, they're gonna try to overlord, become our kings after we kill everybody because they think they're working for the Black Uprising, I guess.
Something like that.
So, so Zane uses his words. He's always pretty good on his feet. So, the crazy stupid uncle is still outside. He's by himself now, and he's talking to them. And Zane says, you got it right. Like we're trying to kill you for sure. Specifically the whites down there, but I don't think you're good enough to rule us, but I don't know, you if you're going to kill us, you try to take him on first. Cause obviously you're like so big and powerful. You could definitely, kill us by yourself. You don't need your family. And the guy's like, you're damn right. I don't need my family to kill one of yous. And so he And then I guess Zane is like, well, you could probably kill both of us. And he's like, yep, I definitely could take you both on myself. And then he opens the cages to both of them. And then Zane and the dad proceed to beat the shit out of the uncle. And I love it because he's just like, oh, hell, as they rain fists down on him, which I thought was fun. And he says, not in the face. So, that's like the main the way that they escape. And then we cut to Carl. Carl is now on the run. I guess they probably did to make the anticipation greater for the lynching, told Carl to run, and now they're like hunting him with dogs and stuff. So Carl's on the run through the wooded areas around this town. And he eventually gets caught, and they beat him up. And then this is where the Mr.
Huey,
there you go. Mr. Huey tells Carl why they're doing this. He says like, oh, I know who you are. You are this guy. And he pulls up a newspaper and it says like, lynchings by Incognegro. And he's like, this is your article. I finally caught you. I've heard about you for so long. And like the last time I almost caught you, but you got away. And this time you didn't. And Carl, I guess knowing that he's going to die, he kind of, like at the beginning of the book, we were saying he didn't have anything going for him. He was kind of just like walking through life without a purpose. And he decides like this is his purpose. He says, I am Incognegro. Like you caught your man, because he figures like, okay, if these people are satiated, Zane can get out and tell the story and also get his brother out. So it's like for a greater purpose kind of thing.
Yeah.
He says that he is in fact Incognegro. He confesses, even though he's not. And then Zane comes back into town, and he stops at, where does he stop? He stops at the.
Zane thinks because the Frances is a woman, he's like, okay, well, there's some man in town that's been posing as this deputy Francis of the sheriff for a while, and so he stops at the place where that deputy lived on the way home.
Yes, and when he gets there, no one's in the house. And it's weird because a man is supposed to live here, but there's nothing a man would wear or even like there's no shaving stuff.
Kit,
There's no stuff for a man in the 20s, I guess, that's here. So obviously it's a woman's house. And then they look at some pictures and they see a picture of the sheriff and this man who is Francis. And then the dad says, well, that'd be an ugly woman. If it is, that's not a woman. That is an ugly woman if it was. And then he looks at a picture of the next picture or whatever, and it's of Francis in a dress, and it is a woman. So he's like, oh, my bad. So I guess Francis was just a homely woman who left her, people, her shitty family, and decided to try to go down and I guess be a sheriff. I'm assuming she had a relationship with the sheriff beforehand. And then he was like, because they make it obvious that like, okay, they were lovers or whatever.
Yeah.
And so the sheriff was
in on the like, you will be the deputy, and like that way we can be together. And
no one will suspect anything. So eventually, while they're in there, the wife of the sheriff sees them, pulls a gun on them, and they have to like punch her to knock her out, which I thought was funny. It was kind of like the Wicker Man or something, where Nick Cage is going around punching women on that island. But they have to knock her out in order to get away. And then we cut to Carl in the town, and people are being horrible. He's being dragged behind a car. He's still alive, but the townsfolk are kicking him and throwing stuff at him. And then they proceed to hang him from a tree and kill him. And still Zane doesn't know any of this. This is all happening in there. And so it's super messed up because Zane, I guess, gets to the hill. He kind of hears what's going on, like the hill, the crest just into the town. So he hasn't seen it yet.
No, he thinks maybe it's his brother's about to get it.
Yes, and so as he comes up, he sees that, oh no, his best friend Carl is the person who was lynched. And of course, he freaks out about that. And the dad has to like slap him out of his hysteria because, he's got to get his brother out of here now, or else there's going to be another lynching soon. And so Zane goes down to the city. He goes like, okay, I'm just going to go straight to the sheriff's jail and talk to him. And so he goes in there, and what he's doing is he's confronting the sheriff. He's thinking the sheriff killed his lover for some reason, and now his brother's framed for the murder. So he goes in there with a gun and pulls it on the sheriff and tells the sheriff, like, I need you to let my brother go. And it seems like he's going to lock the sheriff in the jail. But he, like, basically there's like, the brother's confused because he's like, we're like, wait, Michaela's alive? Because Zane is saying like, oh, I know it wasn't Michaela who was the body. It was Frances. Frances is a woman. You killed her. And the sheriff is like, I don't know what you're talking about. Like, yes, you're right about Frances, but I didn't kill Frances. And then someone else comes in and pulls a gun on them, and it turns out it's Michaela. And Michaela has a shotgun on all of them. And she basically says, you're all wrong. The woman was Frances that was up there. But I accidentally killed her because, when I was having diarrhea, she snuck up on me, but she was dressed as a man, and I thought she was there to rob me or whatever.
And
so I shot her. And that's the mystery. There's no mystery other than then she took the advantage of, oh shit, like, I can't have someone thinking someone's dead up here and cops around, so I'm going to dress her up, and also I can use this to get me out of the money that I owe and all that shit. So she definitely used it like Zane thought earlier, but and the brother is like, holy shit, baby, I love you. And everybody's like, why? She's trying to frame you for murder. Like not on purpose,
she wasn't going to save you. Yeah, she didn't care.
Yeah, she's not here to save you. So yeah, there's this whole thing.
And I did like the sheriff like drops to his knees too. He's like, oh man, like, so you did. Like, now I know who killed her, because he did apparently love Frances. So.
Yeah. I mean, at least, he had a wife, but apparently she was just making pies while he was fucking Frances.
Yeah,
so.
I guess so.
But yeah, so anyway, the sheriff kind of attacks her to like get out of this situation, and also because he's mad that she killed Frances. And then, because she also makes a joke about like how homely Frances looked or something. And,
yeah.
So he starts attacking her, and he ends up shooting her in the face with her own shotgun. And at first, the brother, Alfonso, was like, oh my God, you killed my love. And then Zane is like, your love? She was going to fucking...
trying to murder. Yeah, she was going to
leave you here to be lynched, So that kind of snaps the brother out of it. And then the sheriff just says, get out of here. You're free to go. I'm just going to take care of Michaela on my own. I'm the sheriff, whatever. Everybody else is busy with the lynching still, so you only have a limited amount of time.
Yeah, he's like, okay, I feel like I got justice here. You got justice here, kind of. I'm sorry about your friend, but like,
but
we
leave.
need it. Yeah, look, the town's felt bloodless now. Like, let's cut to the chase and everybody leave.
Yeah, and Zane is like, I can't leave until you get the body of my best friend, and then we'll leave altogether. So that is what happens.
And the reason he convinces the sheriff far enough for that is that because he's like, I already sent my story in before I came here, and it says that you were the killer. So if you don't,
I can't correct it if you kill me now. Or whatever.
Exactly. So you get my friend's body, we'll leave, and I'll make sure the story is changed. And he's like, all right.
Yeah. So that was like it's not like the sheriff was a great guy. He was just forced because he was going to get called out as a murderer. So the sheriff gets the body of Carl, brings it back to them. And they don't really go into how they get back or the struggles of taking a dead body of a friend or whatever with his black brother back to New York. But they do. They just are able to get back pretty easily.
I assume it looks like they go back a ways because it's like he's on the back of a truck and they show him in like a boxcar kind of situation.
Right. So. I would just think it would be really hard to like hitchhike as a black man through the South.
Yeah.
Because it's his brother and him now. So it's not like... I think if they're standing next to each other, it still
would. You would probably be like, "Huh?
Wait a second, yeah." You might do a double take. So yeah, and then we see that like the brother is acclimating in New York, and Zane is telling him, "Hey, it's gonna get better. Like, yeah, it's not the South, but over here, you're free to be whoever you want. You don't have to be a moonshiner to be rich. You could be a doctor or a lawyer or whatever, So it's more accepting up here in the North for black people to have higher paying jobs and stuff. And then Zane publishes his last story, and it is his last story because he wants basically to the memory of Carl, I guess, to live on, because that kind of would signify. I mean, I guess the guy would know like that, like, oh, that wasn't Incognegro that I killed, but because now the story got published, right?
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's like honoring his friend Carl and not doing any more stories, I guess. So, and then he does, or actually he says like, I'm going to continue the story, but I'm also going to be another columnist. Like, I'm going to have a nice column, and then I have the horrible column that I'm writing about lynchings because it's important, and I'm doing it for Carl. But he does put in his last story, not his last story, but the story that he does with Carl about that lynching. He puts a little something else in.
He said he's going to reveal his identity.
Yeah, he says, I'm going to reveal my identity as Incognegro because I'm tired of living in fear or whatever, or anonymity. And then we cut to Fayetteville, Missouri, where Mr. What's his name?
Mr. Huey.
Mr. Huey is, hanging out with his white folk. And as he's walking through the town, he starts getting some interesting looks from people as he says howdy and afternoon. And people are looking at the newspaper and then looking at him and pointing. And he's like, what's going on? And then he walks over to like a little newsy kid, and he takes the paper out of his hand, and the newsy kid says, hey, you stole my paper. N-word. And he's like, wait, what? Why'd you call me that? And then it turns out that the picture that Zane put in for the reveal of Incognegro, he put Mr. Huey's picture as the black person. Then all the people in the city start approaching him with bats. So hopefully he got
his
lynch or whatever. Yeah,
his comeuppance as well.
Yeah, and that is the end of the book. It ends with him about to get killed, which is probably the best way you could end that book. So
yeah,
so yeah,
some kind of
justice. I guess for Carl at least. So with that being said, John, what'd you give it? What would you give it, and what'd you think?
I thought it was really good. I thought it was a good way to tell that kind of the history without having to go into like any like specifics on it. I mean,
like
you want
true details.
Yeah. Like we need to know those things.
I liked it because it's realistic.
But, yeah,
but it's not. It's not a true story. Like it's not like our Green River Killer or those kind of books where it's like, oh, this happened and then this happened, and it's just like, holy shit. Like this was a little bit more palatable as a book that, like, you could give this book to high schoolers for sure and be like, this is a representation of what it was like.
I think so. Like while the stories are important, this is a good way. I guess this would be a good way to like get people to like go
interested in the topic,
in learning about them more too. Yeah, because sometimes it is hard to hit people with. Some people, when they get told facts of things, they're like, "Whoa!" and they get thrown off and kind of backed up from it. So if this is a way to ease someone into it,
exactly.
I think it's good. And I was reading on Matt Johnson has a lot. He has a
body of work.
Yeah, he's quite a body of work into a lot of different things like this.
And apparently, he's a professor in Houston. So
that's cool. I didn't realize that.
Yeah, I didn't either.
So I definitely want to check out more of his stuff, and then on the art in general too. The art was really solid in this, and it's all black and white. But
we didn't really talk about the art, but it is black and white. It's got like grays and stuff too.
Yeah.
So,
black and white isn't like there's no like, even when there's blood, there's no blood. It's
gray tones.
It's gray tones, but it's really good as far as like getting things across and having the, like you said, the difference between Zane and his brother, and really making the bad guy giving him that extra
milky eye,
the milky glass eye thing going on. So it was really good. I really enjoyed it. It was a good start, like I said, to our Black History Month. We'll find out what our next one is from our poll from our patrons.
Yeah, which we'll find out next weekend, and then we'll do it the week after.
Yeah, and we'll make sure you guys go through and check out. We have a great back catalog, and we've had some really good ones that we've dived into for Black History Month every month. So definitely check those out. But in general, I really did enjoy this one. I think this one is for again like a mystery fictitious story, but based upon that history.
The events feel very real because this happened, and you also know when you read the afterword and the foreword, the author is pulling from real events. So
and like you were saying about his kids, like seeing the difference in the skin tones of his children and being like this is something that's gonna continue even for them. Like they're still gonna have some bit of because it's not
they're going to be treated differently
today, but they will be,
of their skin colors.
So it was good. I really enjoyed it. I would give this one an 8. It was a solid read.
Yeah, this was definitely a solid read. I'm going to give it an 8 as well. I think I definitely need to add this one to my collection. I don't know why I missed it. But I just went by the wayside and I never thought about it. Like this isn't a book I've heard people say it's a great, like it always gets like top 10, books about African American experiences in comics and stuff. So it's like, okay, like it's heralded, but like I never heard anyone else ever talk about it. So it was nice to read it and go like, oh, this is really, really good. It's also still available in hardcover. So it's just, I guess, been in print continuously, or at least mostly continuously since it was released in 2008. So you can still buy a nice hardcover for like $20 on Amazon. So I'm definitely going to pick that up. And I think it's got like an interesting size as well. It's not like a standard comic book size. I think it's more square.
Yeah.
So it kind of feels more different. Like its own format makes you like, oh, I got to take a second look at this. What is this? Kind of thing. So I like that about it. I like weird shaped comics. Like
I do too. I like when they're a little different from the normal standard size. So
yes, yeah. So I think like you said, we got our poll going. Speaking of our poll, we should thank our patrons that vote on that poll. So if you would like to be a patron like Hoku, Otaku, Mike, and Christian, we thank you guys very much. You guys can vote once a month on our second podcast that we do, and we give you guys, a bunch of options to vote upon, and then you guys get to pick our second episode of every month. And also, you get an exclusive podcast every month. And this month, last month, we had a poll. There was a tie, so we ended up doing one of them last month, and we're going to do the second one this month. And this month's one is Witchblade. So, as John has said along with me, we're very excited to dive deep into this lore of Witchblade.
Yeah, and last month's was really fun too. So if you want to sign up Patreon, you get those episodes as well.
Yeah, you get the whole back catalog.
Yeah, so. And so that was Scooby Doo's Apocalypse.
Yeah, Scooby Doo Apocalypse.
Yeah, and that was a really fun and interesting story. So it's definitely worth checking out. We have a lot of great tiers, and all of the tiers get those. So definitely go on. Yeah,
any tier on our Patreon gets the extra episodes and everything. And the voting and all that, but you just get extra stuff if you are on the Hellblazer tier. You get the Hellblazer podcast as well. Yeah. So
patreon.com/planes, trains, and comic books, all one word.
Yes. So we try not to harp on it too much, but we do appreciate anybody who is a patron. Once again, Otaku Mike,
Christian and
Hoku. We love you guys. Thank you very much. And we would appreciate it if anyone else would like any of that other content. Please, if you feel so. Join our Patreon and give us a little extra cash, because we do enjoy doing these, and we would like to, it would help us keep the lights on. Cost to host
storage and stuff.
Yeah, all that stuff. So, But with that, is there anything else, John?
I don't think so. I think we'll see him on the next one.
On the next one.
Bye.